Before I show you this next levels trick, I want to explain just a tiny bit about channels in Photoshop. Channels is what Photoshop uses to actually make up your photo, and if you click on your channels panel you can see that there are multiple channels here. The top one is a representation of all of them combined, and that's the RGB channel. Now the RGB stands for red, green, and blue, and if you click on the red one you can see just the red values in this photo. Now Photoshop actually sees everything on a scale of black and white. Everything is grayscale to Photoshop, and then it combines these values to give you a color representation. But when you adjust things like levels or curves, you're going to be really brightening or darkening these grayscale tones within the channels. But that's maybe a little overcomplicated. All I really want you to know is that you can actually affect each of these channels individually instead of just to all of them at once on the RGB. So this trick is one that will work, I think, only on RGBs. I didn't have much success on a couple of photos I had that were in CMYK. So let's go up to Image and Adjustments and grab our levels, which is Command L. The channel we're currently looking at is the RGB channel, but if you click on here you'll notice that you have access to the other three. Let's stay on the RGB for just a minute and quickly remind that if you grab the right it'll brighten, and if you grab the left it will darken, and you can see kind of the drastic change that could happen if we were messing with these. For this technique, instead of changing the RGB first, we do that last. So this time go to red, and what you'll do is grab your white point and drag it over to where the mountain of information starts, and then do the same with the black point. Then adjust the center so that the overall color tone isn't quite as harsh. So I'm taking that just a tiny bit to the right to tone it down a bit. And then move on to the next channel. So now I'm in the green. I'm going to do the exact same thing by pulling in the white and the black and adjusting the center. And then the last is the blue. And this is where we can start seeing some really awesome changes. So I'm going to uncheck my preview box here so you can see what we started with. Now I haven't really been lightening or darkening things all over, but what I have been doing is increasing the contrast. So you can see here in the difference that the difference that this is making. He stands out a lot more from the background because, for example, the whites in his beard and hair are brighter, but also the darks in his beard and hair are darker, and the darks behind him are darker. And that makes quite a big difference. So once you've gone through and adjusted those three channels, come back to the RGB channel, and usually you have to pull a little bit of the darkness out of the middle. So grab the middle slider and take it just a tiny bit to the right. Once you've got that done, this is pretty much set to go. You could come back in and tweak with any little fine adjustments. For example, looking at him, he looks a little bit red to me, so I'm going to come in here to the center and add just a little more to the right. Maybe the same on the blue. That puts some warm tones back in his skin without it being bright red. Now, I know I'm just saying these things and you're maybe going, oh, I didn't even know that needed to happen, but once you've played with some photos a few times, and especially once you've played with photos and printed them out so you can see the final adjustments, then you'll start just having this a little bit more intuitive idea of what needs to be done. When you're done making the adjustments, click OK. I'm going to return to my layers, and as you can see, there he is. He's all done.